What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man, we're going to discuss Deontay Wilder, and Stephen Espinoza talked about why Deontay Wilder turned down Dazn, why he turned down ESPN, and that basically those guys, ESPN and Dazn, weren't really trying to make the Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fights. They were just trying to lock up Deontay Wilder for 4 and 5 fights, and Deontay Wilder said no for a variety of reasons, but primarily that he didn't trust that they were actually trying to make those fights. So I'm going to go over that, but before I do, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscription button and then hit the bell icon, and then you'll know when we release videos, which we do on the daily. Also, you'll get notified, hopefully, you know how YouTube gets funny sometimes, but hopefully you'll get notified of when we do our live streams every Monday morning, Monday through Friday. Start time, it's kind of moves around a little bit, but usually start before 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Also, check out the show that we're going to be doing on Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. OG Boxing Talk with myself, Blood Boxing, and various panelists. Definitely going to be really good conversations. Going to have them right after the fights, you know, the Sunday, the day after the fights, and talk a lot of really good old school boxing. Also, check out the Patreon. Just had some new stuff we put up there. So let me go through what Stephen Espinoza said and give you my thoughts. As people know or familiar with this channel, I negotiate agreements for a living, and so I deal with all kind of people. And, you know, sometimes people enter into negotiations and it's a good faith negotiation. They tell you just what they want to start with. Other people have different negotiation styles, and you really got to go back and forth with them and over a lot of details and wonder what their true motivation is. And one of the things that I've learned, and I really do believe, is that if you are entering into an agreement with somebody, you really need to, you be best going with somebody that you trust over somebody that tells you what you want to hear, that you don't trust. And so let me go through what Stephen Espinoza says about the process that Deontay Wilder went through. He said, this is his process, seeing what is out there and evaluating it. We certainly don't begrudge him the opportunity to evaluate all the options. Now, at the end of the day, he looked at the entire range of options and the advantages and disadvantages to each, and came to the conclusion that he already had the best arrangement. I think that was a combination of factors: the financial opportunities, the visibility, what we've achieved so far, and the commitment that's necessary. I think the difficult thing is people told him that they were trying to make these big fights, that they wanted to make a Fury rematch, that they wanted to make a Joshua fight. But then, in engaging in the conversation, the true motives came out, and it became clear that the goal was not to make the Joshua fight. It was not making a Fury rematch. It was to get Deontay Wilder to sign for 4 or 5 fights that didn't work. That didn't work. It's not something he's interested in. He is confident in his ability to generate revenue without having to lock in. So now, hopefully, we can get back to the original intention. Let's make the big fights. I understand everybody tried to sign him long term. It's not going to work. Now, let's get back to talking what we should have been talking and making these great fights. They're makeable. We just have to focus them. He also says something about which is made, statements have been made in the past about why Showtime has not offered Deontay Wilder a long-term deal. And this is what Espinoza says about that. Deontay has always valued his independence and autonomy. He's seen firsthand the complications that sort of come with making that commitment. There are certain positives, but there are also negatives in terms of locking in long-term with a promoter or a network. And he's made the choice for his own business to remain a free agent. If he wanted a multi-fight deal with Showtime, he could have one. If he wanted one with other networks, he could have one. but that's not his priority. That's not what he values. Now, something that I find really funny is why people cannot respect what that man's goals are. I've read, and I want to thank you to Michael James Boxing, who has sent me several agreements from promoters who are in lawsuits currently, or who had been in lawsuits with their fighters. And as a result of those lawsuits, the contracts became public. And I've read them. I've read several of them. And for one reason or another, the deal went south, but I didn't read them for the, whether somebody was right or somebody was wrong, whether somebody breached an agreement or didn't breach agreement. I looked at it for what the type of negotiation, what did the fighter value when he signed that agreement? What did the promoter value? What were their goals when they signed that agreement? I suppose it was the promoter that offered it, because it's the promoter's standard contract. And I read one young man, I won't say who it is, and I thought to myself, the only thing that this guy valued must have been the signing bonus that he got. Because that agreement was incredibly difficult for him to get out of, the boxer, but very easy for the promoter to get out of. If that boxer lost one fight, the promoter could dump him. And this is in one agreement. If the fighter wanted to get away from the promoter and let that deal expire, the only way that he could get out is if that deal expired, and then he found somebody else who they could verify was offering more money to sign the fighter. Verified that somebody else was offering that fighter more money. And then that promoter had the right to match it. So pretty much there was no out on that contract for this particular fighter. And this is a very, very well-known fighter, signed an agreement when he's 18 years old that locked him in. He tried to change promoters recently and they took him to court and he couldn't get out of the deal. And as I looked at that, and then I looked at a second agreement, and I saw what the person did, and there's all kind of ways in there. They have minimum payments to fighters that the fighter, that are only good if it's in the financial interest of the promoter for it to be, for them to pay the minimum. And, if the promoter can make any argument, the loosest argument, that they won't make money out of the entire card, then they can go below the minimum. It was just mean. And then there was no way out of the deal for the fighter, but for the promoter, he could get out of any particular fight and still keep that fighter under lock and key. So when Deontay Wilder said he's seen things firsthand that makes him want to be independent as a promoter, independent as a network, that is something that is very, very reasonable. And when I looked at those agreements, I thought to myself, if somebody had told me what the dollar value of these agreements are supposed to be, right? They could say any number. They could say, this is supposed to be a $30 million deal. This could be a $30 million, maybe a $30 million deal, might be a $30 million deal, but it also might be a $25,000 deal. It might also be a no dollar deal, right? It could also lock somebody in for the rest of their career. And I don't know if there was any coercion behind signing those agreements, but they were very, very, very hard to get out of, man. So I just find it interesting that people would criticize what Deontay Wilder decides to stay with a network that has made him successful, that he trusts because he's been in fights on that network. He's got paid for fights on that network. No matter how many years he's been with that network, he's still able to entertain other offers and take them if he wants to. There's a considerable amount of freedom in the circumstance that Deontay Wilder's in. But most importantly in this conversation that I find interest is that Deontay Wilder did not believe, after asking after doing his due diligence, and I advise everybody entering into an agreement to do their due diligence, ask a question 15 different ways, go through every line of your contract, ask for interpretations of it, all that good old stuff. He found that they really didn't even want to make that fight, that he didn't believe that they really wanted to make the fight between, and must be Dazn, for the Anthony Joshua fight, and ESPN for the Tyson Fury fight, and he felt like he was in a better situation. So, hey man, I got a lot of respect for Deontay Wilder for doing that. And even if you are a naysayer and a detractor of Deontay Wilder, look at this young man and what he's doing in his as a professional, and the advice that he's getting from world-class advisors like Al Heyman and Shelly Finkel. Deontay Wilder more than likely could have taken that deal if he wanted to take that deal. But he didn't want to because it didn't suit his plans and what he wanted for himself. And my hat goes off to him. Anyway, with that, I'm out. Peace.